Hadith 33. When one of you is invited to a marriage feast, he should go to it. Prophet Muhammad. Bukhari. Razia Begum is an upcoming investigative reporter based in Egypt. After years of avoiding the spotlight, Nora, the lead singer, agreed to an interview with the journalist. Razia Begum and Nora planned to meet in a less well-known cafe to avoid crowds. When Nora arrived at the coffee shop, she was wearing a hijab made with delicate silk draped around the singer from top to foot. The reporter noticed that Nora is slimmer and had a pale complexion. She was also wearing a Khimar that covers his head down to his waist, but the investigative reporter noticed that Nora had lost her gorgeous appearance. Due to this, Razia attempted to avoid staring at the singer too closely for fear of upsetting her. A waiter brought them an Arabic coffee and a chai Haleeb that was pre-ordered, and it filled the coffee house with a pleasant aroma. The shop has no other customers except them, perhaps because there was also a storm approaching. After some pleasantries and customary kisses, the reporter turned on his recorder and placed it on the table. Razia smiled at Nora and motioned her to start at the beginning. It all started when Nora received a phone call that morning inviting her to sing at a marriage reception. Nora was initially annoyed as some other clients take months for reservation, but she was told that the bride is an avid fan and she was promised a huge amount of talent fee. She couldn't refuse the offer because it included a week of vacation for all the members of her band and all costs were paid. Besides, the band was available that day. Her group arrived an hour before their performance, about 9 o'clock in the evening. The 3-story mansion was decked out in decorations, and there were plenty of guests. From the garden to the house's hallways, there was plenty of food and drink on display, but interestingly, all of them were meat. Despite the festivities, Nora's group was getting a strange feeling about the venue. A woman met them and informed Nora that she was the one who called. The woman appeared beautiful and charming, but the same as the venue, she was giving off a terrifying vibe. Nora ignored this feeling and followed the woman to their room. They were all curious about the site, which was lit by torches placed nearly everywhere. One of the members of the band, Shams, said she wasn't feeling well and thought the place was strange. After Nora persuaded her that the show had to go on, they unpacked their instruments and set them up for the event. They were given food and drinks which they consumed except for Shams. Shams felt that something was wrong and her group was in a trance-like condition where they unwittingly ignored all the red flags. Sham felt uncomfortable but stopped arguing with Nora. She performed without looking at the audience. The energy of the audience startled them during the first set of their performance. They apparently danced as if they were performing a pagan ritual. The visitors' energy initially encouraged the group, but they became uncomfortable when the guests continued to dance for an hour while they were performing. The mansion was likewise filled with smoke, but Nora ignored it as part of the decor. After the performance, Nora manages to get a good look at the bride and groom. She noticed that both are wearing outdated clothes. Not only that, but both their eyes are locked into each other without blinking. To be frank, one would even mistake them for mannequins. This unsettled Nora even more, and by the looks of her companions, they certainly feel the same. The performance took a lot of energy from Nora and her group. But particularly for Nora, because it is as if the performance is draining not only her energy but also her soul. The group returned to their room to rest before the wedding ceremony, which will take place soon. Muslim marriages are brief, so Nora persuaded Sham and her party that they would leave as soon as they were finished performing. The band noticed that Nora was drained of energy and needed to rest somewhere quiet. Someone from the group suggested that Nora rest on the second floor and she followed the suggestion. The moment Nora stepped onto the second floor, she immediately smelled the foul smell. It is as if the place has not been used for a long time. She covered her nose and continued walking until she found an open room. Just like everything on this floor, the bed seemed like it had not been used. The room itself was very dark, and dusty, and was decorated in a very old-fashioned way. Something that anyone hasn't seen for at least a century. Nora felt that she really needed to sleep, so she lay down in the dusty bed. The moment she closed her eyes, she fell into a deep slumber. After which, she had a terrifying dream. In her dream, she saw a lady in a dark dress. She was screaming and running towards her. Nora was terrified and couldn't breathe when she woke up. As she was about to leave the room, the door suddenly shut. Nora almost jumps in fear and shrieks a little. She hurriedly tried to open the door and was able to go out. She hurried to the stairs while saying a prayer but stopped when she saw a child running towards her and calling her name. She fell down to the floor due to the shock of what was happening. That is when she hears another voice coming saying, "Sing a song, I like your voice." At the same time, she hears one more voice telling her something that in her panic she did not understand. Nora hurriedly stood up and ran towards the stairs. Nora was almost out of breath when she got back to their room. There she found one of her female bandmates crying loudly. She said that she also went to the second floor to fetch Nora, but once she was there she heard voices coming from faces on the wall. Nora decided not to tell her experience on the second floor so as not to scare her bandmates even more. The door suddenly opened and a man angrily shouted at them to stay in their room and not wander on the second floor. He forcefully closed the door shut. Everyone looked at each other wondering what that was all about. All except for Nora and the other lady bandmate. Nora felt that she was responsible for the safety of her bandmates, so she asked them to change their clothes as the wedding was about to start. She thought that not finishing their performance would put them in danger, so she also directed them not to just look at the floor carpet while performing so they could focus and finish their last set of songs for the celebration. The band headed to the wedding hall at exactly 10 p.m. They were surprised by the appearance of the bride and groom. The groom was wearing old-fashioned clothes and the bride was wearing a black dress, which was inappropriate for a wedding ceremony since it is a sign of mourning. The groom and bride sat still in their seats. They both had blank expressions on their faces. A mirror is kept between them as a part of the wedding ritual. The couple is supposed to glance in the mirror and view their spouse's reflections. Their religious leader officiated the wedding ceremony. The men and the women were seated in separate groups for the ceremony. The women gathered around the bride and the men around the groom. But nonetheless, because of the variations, it was unclear if it was a Muslim wedding. Muslim marriages are supposed to be short, yet theirs took several hours. The band performed their first song for the bride and groom. Nora sang a popular wedding song. The crowd applauded, stood up, and danced to the beat of the drums and instruments. They began coming close to each other, shaking hands and kissing, like touching each other's noses, which is an Arabic custom. The group noticed a significant increase in the number of visitors. They created noises that were significantly louder than the instruments. Then a group of women clothed in skin-tight attire performed an awkward dance. Sham passed out as she saw their legs were not human but cattle's. Nora also saw their inhuman legs but continued to sing, trying to hide the fact from their hosts that they had not yet discovered their secrets. A lady pointed out to Nora that Sham fainted, while Nora was ending her song. Nora signaled that it was okay and told them she was just tired and brought Shams to their dressing room. She tried to wake Shams up and calm the other members of the band. Sham woke up and told them that the place was cursed. They have come to celebrate the wedding of the jinns, which are demons. Sham told them that they were vengeful spirits that might hurt them. Nora told them that it was impossible to leave without the visitors noticing them. It was 2 in the morning and it was about 2 hours until sunrise. When the dawn breaks, she was sure that it would be over. Despite being afraid, the group went back to the wedding hall to sing their last set of songs. Sham was not able to sing or play her instruments, so she just looked at the food to avoid looking at the guests. The other member did it too to avoid panicking. The number of visitors tripled in number and became noisier than before. The crowd increased in number as the noise increased or became louder. Nora closed her eyes while singing while the other band members kept playing their instruments. In the middle of the singing, dancing, and shouting, a woman with long hair pulled her hair and threw it on the ground like a wig. But the hair lying on the ground was full of blood. Sham fainted again. It was this time that they were surrounded by the guests who took their instruments and played them loudly. The group was terrified at the thought that they were surrounded by jinns who were no longer singing, dancing, and shouting. They were chanting an unknown language, with their red eyes bulging and their saliva dripping in their jaws. Nora believed they were on the verge of dying. In response, her group prayed and chanted Quran verses. There was total silence as the power went out. The band cried and prayed to God for rescue till the sun rays appeared and the mansion returned to its original appearance. Nora and her band bolted, leaving their instruments behind. They approached a man on the street and asked for assistance. The man asked what they did in the abandoned building. Nora and her party turned around and discovered that it was definitely an abandoned property. The man assisted them in returning home. It was already pouring outside when Nora concluded her story. Razia Begum told Nora that she is very interested in the story because she was a relative of Sham's, one of the members of her band. Sham has told her to look for Nora and tell her how she values their friendship. Razia took out a friendship bracelet that Sham wanted Nora to have. Nora glared at the friendship bracelet, not blinking the entire time. She extended her hand in a jagged fashion. It is as if her movements have corners much like a statue. When Nora got hold of the bracelet, her lips gave an odd grin. Razia was unsettled by the bizarre movements that Nora was exhibiting. The storm brought tremendous thunder and lightning, which caused the lights in the cafe to go out. For a brief moment, there was pitch black darkness until the power came back on once the building's generator was activated. The reporter was surprised that Nora disappeared and was nowhere to be found. She was perplexed and did not know what to make of it. In her confusion, she grabbed her cup of coffee and clasped it in both hands. Took one small sip and placed the cup back on the table. Razia was thinking that Nora could not have left because it was still pouring heavily outside. That is when she received a text message from Noura Al-Taqaqa indicating she would not be able to make it due to the storm.